some of our technology that does what the industry calls next best action, right? So the ability to figure out in real time, based on everything we know about this customer, and frankly, everything we're trying to achieve as a business in terms of maintaining profitability, growing revenue, what's the conversation that's going to balance the relatability and suitability for the customer with the conversation that's also going to help the business drive the most profitable and growing relationship possible. And being able to do that in milliseconds, hundreds of millions of times a day, is what we've built some pretty scalable technology.
Today on Customer Land, Don Schuerman, who is CTO at Pega, and having just hung out with a handful of Don's colleagues yesterday in New York City as they were demoing some new features and functionality on their giant platform, which is really eye-opening. I hope we'll get into that in depth here in this conversation. But everybody was like, first of all, say hi to Don when you see him. So hello from your team there. But you have a huge fan base down there. But I don't know. Why don't we just introduce you, and then we have a lot to talk about here. So Don, thank you.
Yeah. So as you said, I'm CTO at Pega. I think these days CTO for me means Chief Translation Officer. There is so much going on in the technology space, whether it's around AI or agentic automation and all these different pieces. You know, what I view my team's job is to sort of act as the translator between the technology and what our customers need to do with it, and making sure that our customers understand how to use the technology, and make sure that also our product teams are building technology that actually align with our customers' problems. So that's where I spend most of my time. One foot with our customers and one foot with our tech.
There's a lot going on here, and I had a first row view of exactly what that meant. Interesting little side note, though, was talking with somebody from Accenture at the end of the day who said, Pega's got this remarkable technology, and there are a lot of remarkable MarTech type platforms out there. But even though they're designing and producing technology to help communicate better, so many of these MarTech platforms just do a terrible job of communicating it, except for Pega. And yesterday was this great example of how Pega's kind of gone out of their way to design communications just to explain what you can do with your technology. So
yeah, I mean, I think I've been with Pega for a while, and Pega has one of the things that I think we very much are is a technology platform, and that requires us being able to really help our clients understand the power of our platform is it's applicable to a wide range of problems. But what that means is it's not like a neatly fit box that's just like, oh, do you need one of these? We got that widget. It's like, no, we're selling you a platform. We're selling you a collection of tools. So we have to be, really proactive about explaining to our clients why those tools deliver massive amounts of business value. The great thing is, I think what you saw yesterday in terms of Blueprint on the customer engagement side, we've done also work with Blueprint on more of our workflow automation side and our process side. We're now using Gen AI to actually drive that communication and that explanation in ways that I think are really experiential and really powerful. And it's shifting the way our clients take that journey to value and helping it be much faster for them and us.
Case in point, one of the people speaking there, and I don't think I'm allowed to say who this is, but so I won't. But one of your clients, a very sophisticated financial services client, unpacked in great detail how they're using Pega's system to solve some insanely complex large-scale communications problems. And these are things that I've only imagined before, but it was pretty fascinating to see someone's actual kind of decision tree matrix and how that all gets worked out in basically real time.
Yeah.
For over 1 million customers. And
it's pretty, the thing that I think is also astounding for people is some of the stuff that we're doing. And, you're speaking specifically around some of our technology that does what the industry calls next best action, right? So the ability to figure out in real time, based on everything we know about this customer, and frankly, everything we're trying to achieve as a business in terms of maintaining profitability, growing revenue, what's the conversation that's going to balance the relatability and suitability for the customer with the conversation that's also going to help the business drive the most profitable and growing relationship possible. And being able to do that in milliseconds, hundreds of millions of times a day, is what we've built some pretty scalable technology to enable.
I want to say it was Greg DeMello, but there was so much of. I mean, yesterday was kind of a fire hose effect
Yeah.
on lay people like myself. Um, so I think it was Greg, but it might not have been. But somebody from your team put up a graphic that showed efficacy with propensity, and
Yep.
it was pretty remarkable to say, your system can determine with a pretty high level of accuracy what propensity looks like and how quickly it decays,
Yes.
because it's not a stable thing,
That's
and how
right.
messaging should change accordingly. But you know, yeah, again, I don't want to give away too much of the secret sauce. I don't know how much I'm actually allowed to talk about this, but it was one of those graphic representations of an idea that I've had and wondered about. But here it is with actual data behind it, showing that, like, look, if propensity isn't one of your, if not the main metric you're trying to aim for in customer communications, you're spending way too much money where you don't need to.
Well, I think the to put that in real context, right? If you're, say, a telecommunications company and you have a customer who's visiting their website, and you detect at that moment that there's a really high propensity for you to sell them an upgraded service, or you to get them to upgrade that mobile phone, right? You've got to be able to both detect that propensity and then turn that propensity into a personalized conversation in that moment,
Right then.
right? And
Yeah.
so much of what happens sometimes, I think, in the MarTech space, they talk about it being real time, but what really is happening is actually it's not doing it in the real time. It's figuring out in batch and sending somebody an SMS message 24 hours later. And guess what? The buying moment, the opportunity, as you say, is decayed, it's gone. So we've really focused on how do you make that happen so that the instant you know that a bit of propensity exists, if the company wants to, you have the opportunity to connect and outreach right in that moment.
As I mentioned yesterday, it was kind of a fire hose for me, just taking it all in and still going through notes here and trying to digest and really understand what I saw there. But one of the things that became clear by the end of the day as and I mentioned this sort of a moment ago, is how much Pega is investing in just helping your current client base to understand what you could do here. And I think a lot of that it was driven by some research that I think you commissioned that had to do with how much tech debt is out there, the value of it in terms of dollars, but also just how much it stops up an otherwise optimized system.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing that we're seeing, right, and that some of the data that we collected show it, there's lots of people who've looked at sort of like the estimated costs of technical debt. I think the number that we cite is, it's around $2.4 trillion annually, like in terms of, IT costs out to organizations. But that's purely the IT and maintenance cost. What we're not seeing is the impact on consumers in that number, right? So the other thing that we discovered, because we didn't just talk to companies, we talked to consumers about this. And what we hear from consumers is that like 50%, 6% of them feel that despite all our investments in technology, the customer service experience is actually getting worse,
Right. Right.
right? So, and to me, that's the other side of this tech debt equation, which is we're building up this technology that in some cases is actually preventing us from
Right.
delivering the best possible experience we want to deliver to our customers.
It'd be a good moment to just take a breath, look up around the landscape and see, what's going right and what's going wrong here. I mean, there's the the missed opportunities. There's the antagonizing customers, which isn't just a neutral, that's, a negative.
Yep.
And that's, you can't really put a dollar figure on that. Like, as you say, it's if the research points to 2.41 trillion a year
Yep.
just in IT costs, can you even imagine if you were able to, I don't even know how you could, estimate the effect on the consumers, the loyalty, and the transactions that you're probably screwing up as a result of this? It's a much bigger number.
Well, and what we've really been focused on, right, is given that I think technology debt acts as what I would call a boat anchor on innovation, right? Because I think one of the other things we see is like 70% of CIOs feel like tech debt is hampering their ability to innovate, which I think is also, I have a lot of conversations with CIOs and CTOs and leaders at our clients, and they're being sort of hidden from both sides, which is we have all this exciting stuff happening with Gen AI and everybody's using ChatGPT and isn't this incredible and super powerful? Well, but how do I actually make that work when I'm still like running my back end on a bunch of mainframe and Lotus Notes apps, right?
Right.
That I don't even have developers who understand anymore. And so one of the things, Pega as a platform, we're really focused in two big areas. How do we help companies improve their decisioning, right? Which is what you saw down in New York. Like, how do we make those real-time decisions to engage customers? And then once you've made the decision, how do we help you improve the process on the back end of it? So if we as a telecommunications company offer you a new iPhone, how do we make it so the process of getting a new iPhone and returning your old one isn't a pain, right? Is easy for the customer, but also really efficient and automated for the business so they can do it at the best profit margin and best cost profile possible. Um, so we've focused a lot of the capabilities that we've built in the last year or so around how can I use generative AI and some of the power that's coming out of that and agents and automation to look at some of a company's, say, existing systems, existing processes, existing workflows, and not just re-platform the old stuff onto the cloud, right? Which basically, like, yeah, I may shift some of my IT costs, but I'm not actually improving the experience. How can we help you rethink your processes and rethink the way you do customer engagement so that not only are you modernizing, you're truly transforming the experience on the other end. So you're both reducing that 2.4 trillion dollar cost, right? We're chipping away at that, but we're also trying to make your customers happier and more engaged and better satisfied with the services they're giving.
Yeah, so you're looking at something, just an entirely different paradigm you're trying to sell here. And just a side note that, in my experience, educating people, educating organizations is expensive. It's time consuming
Yeah.
and it's arduous work that has, a low chance of success. And I got into this conversation a little bit with one of your colleagues yesterday, and they said, "Well, here, let me show you this thing over here, which we've just built to kind of facilitate those things." And so they were demoing this thing that you've developed called Blueprint,
Yep.
which is a really neat tool set that again, I'm still trying to digest what I actually saw there, because once it was demoed, there were just a flurry of questions about, what did I just see? How did that just work? What am I really looking at? Is this real? Is this not real? But would you care to kind of, just in a nutshell, if there is a way, explain what Blueprint is and does and why it exists?
Yeah, and I'm gonna potentially give you two explanations. So the first thing that I would say is, if you're interested in what I'm saying, go to pega.com/blueprint and try it out for yourself. Like, the best way to actually see this is to just go experience it. It's free. Just put in your email address. The stuff you put into Blueprint we can't see, so your data stays private to you. It's all but what we've built with Blueprint is a way to design your workflows and your customer engagement, and rethink them in, I would say, a more modern digital way. So what you, for example, saw in New York was on the customer engagement and the decisioning side.
Right.
So, what we have a product called Customer Decision Hub, and it drives these next best actions. The banker who you heard in New York, the example of a telecommunications company that I was just sharing earlier, those are real world clients who use this at pretty massive scale to figure out in real time, every time they have a conversation with a customer on any channel, what's the right conversation to have that's going to be valuable for the customer and valuable for the business, right? And that's powered by what I would call statistical or mathematical AI. So AI that has existed, frankly, for decades, and we just haven't fully exploited in all of the tools that we use. So we have that product that, to get clients to really appreciate it, it's a pretty fundamental shift in the way a lot of people think about marketing, because so much of what we do in marketing is we talk about being customer centric, but it's not, right? It's product centric. We have a product, we have a message we want to get out there. We, divide a bunch of customers up into segments, and then we spam each segment with whatever message it is we want to talk about on that given day. What we're advocating is truly customer-centric engagement. I'm not pushing products. I'm listening to you as a customer, and I'm conversing with you at the thing that is most relevant to you at that moment. And it might be selling you a new product. It might be helping you get service or helping you resolve a problem. It might, frankly, oftentimes the next best action is nothing. It's
Right.
leave you alone, right? Which is a really good thing to do sometimes with customers.
Which flies in the face of marketing 101. You have to do something to justify your job.
Well, right. It flies in the face, but oftentimes the best thing we can do is just help a customer deal with the thing they're trying to deal with right now, and not encumber them with sales and offers, right? Often what you'll find is, if you can solve their problem for them easily, you then open up that moment to make the offer. But that's a big shift, right? So what we've built with this tool that we launched called Customer Engagement Blueprint, and it's actually this version of Blueprint we just announced yesterday, so we're pretty new here, is it actually lets a client experience what that is. So what we'll do is, you'll go on to Blueprint, you'll describe a little bit about your business. You'll put in a link to a section of your website, and we'll actually use Gen AI to analyze your website. What kind of products are you selling? What kind of brand voice are you using in your product? Who are the personas that you would likely target? What characteristics of buyers and customer and potential customers do you have? And then we'll map out in Blueprint exactly what are the kinds of offers and conversations that you might have with those customers, and allow you to see both those offers, but how that would be reflected in a next best action strategy. How we would look at a universe, say, of 3 possible conversations, and figure out at real time, what's the conversation that you should have with this individual right now. It's really powerful, because it takes what something, as I'm describing this, is pretty theoretical, but I'm actually doing this in the course of a very, very specific business. So that is one half of the Blueprint equation.
The 2025 Global XE Awards are now open for entries. The XEs are the first and only awards program dedicated to highlighting the innovative approaches to customer experience, CX, employee experience, EX, user experience, UX, UI, experience design, and experience architecture across verticals, retail experience, travel experience, healthcare experience, and more. We're working with a growing list of sponsors and partners around the world to honor the breakthrough approaches to creating experiences that drive results. The confluence of technologies and the convergence of business necessities are driving some of the most creative experiences ever, and we think it's time to give credit where credit is due. The 2025 Global XE Awards are now open for entries, and early bird pricing ends soon. To learn more, go to xeawards.com, that's EXXY awards.com, or visit customerland.net and click on the XE banner. So just to kind of like put a fine point on this for a few minutes, I think a traditional marketing approach would be to say, okay, we have to understand our customer and define what that means, because it's been a radically different definition depending on who you talk to, which means that again, depending on who you talk to, you're going to approach them differently and have a different understandings of what they actually want. And then it comes down to the messaging for each one of those personas, if you have multiples, and managing those. And I think, I can't remember who I was talking to yesterday, but said, look, in the past, and the very recent past, if you had spoken about matrixing out messaging channels, propensity to get to a next best action with, I don't know, a dozen different personas, the marketer would get wide-eyed and start to sweat.
Right.
And so what happens when you've got a million customers or more than that, and dozens and dozens and dozens of personas that you're going after, and all of the different messaging, next best action
Yeah.
activities? I mean, it's literally impossible to conceive. You just can't get your head around that as a mortal. You just can't do it. And whoever was in the demo at that point said, "Here, let me push a button." And literally the matrices just kind of filled the page. And here's how they relate.
Yep.
Here's how they rely on one another. Here are the kind of theoretical decision trees. And this can all happen in real time. And look, here is person A, persona A, under these who's here under these circumstances in this context, and we can know that, and we can respond to it in real time with any one of, a gabillion little
Well,
permutations.
and what we've really done with Blueprint, and I think that idea if you just push a button is we've made it, and what I think is really powerful is we've taken some pretty sophisticated data science, right? Which, in the past, to your point, you had to have some pretty deep statistical understanding to get your head around how all this worked, right? Um, we've now made that very accessible, I think, to a marketer. Be able to see, like, oh, what you're doing is you're laying out these different kinds of conversations and these different journeys and dynamically selecting across to find for this person what the right one is. And I can see that in a really tangible way. So I don't have to worry about understanding necessarily the data science. I'm understanding the impact on the other end, right? And that's what I think is really powerful. I think all of this obsession right now around AI and Gen AI, and it's all great. But at the end of the day, I'm less interested in whose model is faster, et cetera, because I think all of that stuff starts commoditizing. And the better and more interesting question is, how can I apply all these different forms of AI, generative AI, statistical AI, machine learning, et cetera, to get me to things that really change the game for my business and my customers. And that's what we want to be able to show you. Like cut through the data science complexity and get to no, this is how it could really impact your customer today.
Right, right. I mean, the demo, and I'll just reiterate what Don just said here, is free. Go to pega.com/blueprint and you can play with it. And I think
Yep.
there's a QR code that we'll put here on the podcast page as well. But as your team was demoing this thing, all I could think of is, well, that's a huge amount of power. But the outcome of it, and the whole thing took less than 10 minutes, and that was with a lot of talking in between steps.
Yep.
The outcome of it was a pretty intelligent go-to-market plan, even if you're not using the Pega platform in its full intended complex way. It spit out something that, look, there are a lot of consultants who get paid a lot of money to do.
So the thing the thing that's kind of cool is this is our second blueprint. So this is the customer engagement blueprint, right? And as you say, it kind of spits out a pretty comprehensive customer journey map and go-to-market plan, right?
Mhm.
We based that on a blueprint that we've had now in market for about a year that was focused on workflows, right? Because that's the other half of Pega's business. We drive this decisioning and customer engagement side, but we also drive a lot of the workflow automation of the customer operations. And the other side of Blueprint, which you can also see at pega.com/blueprint, does the same thing, but does it for workflows. So it looks at and says, hey, I'm a wealth management portion of a bank. I need to onboard new customers. What's the optimal workflow for onboarding a new customer that still gets me through all of the regulatory hurdles I need to satisfy in order to make that happen? And we can, again, in minutes, if not seconds, lay that out for you. And whether or not you end up implementing that in Pega, we'd love you to implement in Pega, and we've made it really, really fast so you can take your blueprint and import it, and we'll just build it all for you. But even if you don't implement it in Pega, it's a really useful view into, oh, this is what the optimal workflow for onboarding a wealth management customer might look like.
Right.
Like it's as you say, it's weeks of design thinking, which you can pay people a lot of money to do, that we've now taken some AI tools, we've combined that with some of our own expertise in different areas, and we've now made that available to you instantly. And again, for anybody to try out at pega.com.
It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting stuff. And I think,
well, and where I'm really excited, and we talk about this tech debt, we recently added to the workflow side of Blueprint the ability to take a document, say like the manual for one of those old legacy applications you have, and upload it to Blueprint. And Blueprint will suggest a modern design version of that application. So it will discover all the workflows that are in that application,
wow.
discover all the data model, and say, well, in a modern world, you could make that application look like this. So imagine now being able to have a little bit of an engine that is blueprinting your legacy transformation, that is taking some of your existing systems and quickly getting you to a design and a very implementable design of what that system could look like. I think the possibility here for driving an accelerated pace of transformation in a lot of our clients, is pretty massive, and that's one of the reasons why we're so excited to talk to them about it.
Yeah, pretty remarkable stuff. I honestly, I think this conversation could keep going because there's so many different ways of using this. But I wonder if the better use of your time, frankly, would be to reconnect and say another 6 to 9 months or so after Blueprint's been in market, after you've seen how people are using it, after the learnings from those experiences have kind of flowed your way, and what you're going to do with it next, and see where that goes. Because
we've already got a number of clients using and driving this on the workflow side. We've done close to 100,000 of these blueprints already. The customer engagement one just launched yesterday, so it's getting going. But I'd love to reconnect in a couple months, because I think we're going to have some pretty exciting innovations to share as well. So it's definitely an exciting time in the technology space.
It's a great time to be here. If it was ever boring, I don't know what you're thinking, but it is certainly not now.
It's certainly not boring now.
No, but one thing, it occurred to me, I think somebody brought this up in one of the presentations yesterday, is like, hey, can this thing spit out an ROI? Can it tell me what the dollars and cents benefits are? And I think whoever was presenting at the time said, not yet, but soon.
Yes.
Which would be pretty darn cool, because, even to take that theoretical ROI number to your CTO or to your CFO and say, look what I'm about to do here, if you'll just check this box, is got to make anyone who's selling these platforms their life a lot easier, because that's always been, kind of, how do I get there?
Well, and selling the platform a lot easier. But I also think, I also think helping our clients figure out, like, I only want to sell this stuff to our clients where it's going to actually add value to them, right? And helping us identify with our clients, where are the places that we can really add value, and where is the stuff that might be, less of a priority. And the more we can quickly get to that answer and have us invest less time on the sales side and clients less time on the buying side to figure out where the value lies, that's a win on both sides of the
Right,
equation, right?
right,
So
right.
my advice to anybody listening is, again, pega.com/blueprint. Try it out. Send us a message. Let us know what you think. We think it's pretty exciting, whether you're on the workflow side or the marketing and customer engagement side. We think there's some pretty game changing stuff happening in the world right now that we're excited to be a part of.
Yeah, clearly, and I can second that. I've seen it, and it's pretty spectacular and eye-opening. Well, Don, thanks a million for your time. I
All
really
right.
appreciate this.
Yeah, great to talk with you, Mike.